Most of us know the story of the atomic bomb as this single history-altering event. But what happens after the flash? Today, we're going to explore the profound human story that began in the ashes.
And yeah, this isn't really a story about geopolitics. It's the story of survivors, of young women whose lives were just completely, irrevocably changed in a single instant, and what they did next.
To really understand their journey, we have to go back to the final, absolutely brutal months of World War II, and a decision facing the President of the United States that was totally unprecedented.
The pressure was just immense. The war in Europe was over, so all eyes were on the Pacific. President Truman's top-level committee had this one job: weigh an option that had never existed before in all of human history.
And this was their stark conclusion. After a whole lot of debate, the path was chosen. And those words, direct military use, well, they sealed the fate of 2 Japanese cities.
That is the critical question, isn't it? A decision made thousands of miles away, but with consequences that were measured in flesh and bone. So let's turn to the reality of that decision, right on the ground.
You see, the bomb didn't just bring a blast and fire. It unleashed something new, something insidious that doctors had never, ever seen on this scale. This declassified U.S. Army report from 1946 shows you the immediate aftermath, and not just in the rubble, but in medical understanding. Look at this text. You can literally see officials grappling in real time, trying to create a whole new category of harm they ended up calling radiation injuries.
This was the unseen weapon hiding inside the weapon. Unlike a normal bomb, the damage wasn't just external. No, this ionizing radiation attacked the body from the inside out, right down to the cellular level.
And the progression of it was just terrifying. Within hours, you'd have nausea. A couple of weeks later, your hair would start falling out in clumps. Then came the internal bleeding, the ulcers, and a total collapse of your body's ability to fight infection. It was like a slow, agonizing poison. Now, among the tens of thousands who suffered these effects was a small group of young women, and their story would eventually cross oceans and challenge the world's conscience. 25. It's a small number, but it represents such an immense story. 25 schoolgirls who survived that initial blast, but were left with severe, disfiguring scars. They would become the unwilling human face of this new atomic age. They became known as hibakusha, which means explosion-affected people. But instead of sympathy, they often faced fear and prejudice. Misunderstanding about radiation led a lot of people to treat them like outcasts, making it impossible to find work or to marry. Their journey was just remarkable. First, a whole decade of isolation in their own country. Then, a trip to the very nation that dropped the bomb looking for healing and reconstructive surgery. It was this incredible path from tragedy to resilience, and for a lot of them, it turned into a lifelong commitment to peace, just to make sure their story would never be forgotten. Their shared nightmare is captured so well in this quote from a review of their story. It points out how uncannily similar their accounts were. It was a collective trauma, just burned into the memory of a generation. So you have this deeply personal story of their scars, and it existed alongside a very different public story, one that was being carefully controlled and crafted by the authorities. So you've got these two realities existing at the exact same time: the official military and political narrative, and then the deeply suppressed, real, lived experience of the Hibakusha. So let's look at the gap between them. On one side, you had a massive information campaign. This document right here outlines the whole plan. 16 million leaflets dropped over 47 cities, constant radio broadcasts. All of it designed to justify the bombing and manage the narrative.
And on the other side, a suppressed truth. Reports on the actual human cost were buried. Japanese medical records confiscated. And many survivors recalled being put through these humiliating examinations, saying they felt more like lab subjects than patients.
But what's really crucial is how they processed all this. They're faced with this immense trauma and a world that really didn't want to hear about it. And yet they developed this incredibly profound perspective. Just listen to this reply one of the women gave to an insensitive question.
So, what do we take away from all this? The legacy of Hiroshima, and of these women, is really about learning to hold two conflicting ideas in your head at the same time.
It shows us that a single event can be both a cold, strategic calculation and an intensely personal human tragedy. Their story forces us to look beyond the historical footnote.
And that's the real challenge they leave us with. History isn't simple. So how do we acknowledge the complexities of the past, the strategic decisions, and the human cost, without losing sight of the people at the absolute center of it all?